If I could have your attention here in the media center, we are now joined by Brad Keselowski, driver of the number 2 Miller Lite Ford for Team Penske. Brad will roll off 9th in Sunday's New Hampshire 301. Brad, you coming into this race with a lot of momentum, Daytona, last week at Kentucky. It's been exciting along the way. Do you feel some more excitement coming for you this Sunday here at New Hampshire?
Yeah, it sure has been a good ride the last 2 weeks, and you know, that's all you can ask for as a driver is to be up front and have a chance to win races, and we've had that, been able to capitalize on it, so feel really good about that. Of course, we got to keep it going, and hopefully we can do that this weekend at New Hampshire. It's a little early in the weekend to be able to tell how all that will play out, and there's been a lot of changes since the last time we have been here, so you know, I think we're seeing that all play out together. But with all that said, I feel really confident, and this track is usually a very good track for us, and there's no place else I'd rather be.
We're going to open up the floor to questions. We'll get a wireless mic to you. We'll start here with Kenny.
Kenny Bruce, NASCAR.com. Brad, several teams seemed like it took them a little while to get through inspection out there. Did your guys have any issues at all? And secondly, it looked like you might have had a problem in that last round of qualifying. If you could kind of take us through that.
Yeah, I guess the first part about cars through tech, we didn't have any problems that I know of with my car. I did see a couple guys might have got through late, but it's hard to say why or if there was any common issues. I couldn't answer that. I just know we didn't have any. That kept us from being there on time. Maybe we had something I didn't know about, but yeah, in our last run there, we just tried to find a little bit more speed and didn't stick. So kind of aborted and tried again. So not what we wanted, but that's how it goes sometimes.
Other questions for Brad? We'll go to Pat and then to Bob.
Pat Ticola, NASCAR.com. Just your general reaction to the juniors news and how you think the sport handles concussions as a whole.
Yeah. Were you saving that question for me? Yeah, well, you know, Dale's a friend. And, you know, he's not, obviously he's the most popular driver in the sport. He's got a lot of fans, probably the strongest fan base. But, you know, I try not to wear that hat. I try to wear the hat as, you know, someone that gave me a big break in my career, and, you know, I'm thankful for that, and was or is a friend of mine along the way. So I would say that, you know, I'm disappointed for him. I'm sure he's disappointed as well. But I also understand, you know, what he was thinking with terms to he's got a lot of life to live outside of, you know, this world right here, and sometimes that's really easy to forget. Sometimes I forget that. I think sometimes we all kind of forget that because we're so focused on what we do, but that's not always a bad thing. So, you know, I'm hoping, you know, that everything works out for him. Of course, we want to see him back. I want to race him. I like racing against him. And I'm hoping that he'll be back next week, but I don't know specific of what all he's dealing with and so forth. But, you know, I think my thoughts on that whole topic has been pretty well documented. I'm not really looking to add any more to it. You know, I might not be a doctor, but I'd like to think sometimes I got a brain, and maybe that gives me the ability to have some perspective on it. A lot of other people's don't. So that's okay. But, you know, I'm happy with what I've said so far about the topic. Thank you.
Go next to Bob and then to Lewis.
Bob Hocker, ESPN. My question is kind of along those lines, in the sense of we know you have some passionate feelings on this topic. We're all talking and asking people about this topic this weekend. Do you have to avoid thinking about it or talking to people? Because you're a guy who likes debate, but is there any concern among yourself that, man, I can't get into this debate because I've got to focus on a race car this weekend?
Well, you know, I'm here to win 3 in a row, not argue about, you know, concussions. Obviously, my opinion on the topic is probably vastly different than the majority of the opinions, and, you know, I feel like I've said what I need to say there, and there's probably more I could say, but it's just a distraction to your point, Bob, so I'm not really interested in carrying it any further.
Go to Lewis.
Yep. Louis Frank of Reuters. Doug Ducard said that if Dale isn't ready for next week, they'd put Jeff Gordon in the car. No question about his talent. He hasn't been off the scene for, you know, very long. But it's a big decision to retire from racing, and you're many years away from that. But, you know, the thought process of, what do you think of the thought process of deciding to leave racing and then getting back in a car?
I can't speak for Jeff, but I thought he left a window where he said he wasn't completely retired. Maybe I'm wrong.
He said that.
Yeah, so I guess I'm good with it. I'm cool with whatever he wants to do. It's his prerogative, and not that he needed my permission at all, but I'm sure there's somebody in here who's going to write something that says Brad Keselowski gives Jeff Gordon permission to race. Yeah, and I'll get a tweet or a message from some Jeff Gordon fan saying what a jerk I am. But I think it's all right by me. I think it's cool. It's always nice for a race team to have that kind of depth. And I don't know what Jeff's thoughts are on it. I mean, he hasn't really said anything that I'm aware of. But I think more important is on the whole topic in general is just the context of Dale being healthy.
Go next to Rob.
Sorry.
No, go to Rob, and then we'll go to Mike. Yeah. Don't steal his mic.
Gosh,
Rob.
that's kind of rude. No, just kidding. She did give me a water, so she's got even karma now.
Yeah, that's all right. That's
even
good.
karma.
Rob T. Oxen at the podium finish. Brad, it seems like this season's kind of going in a 2014 swing because you've come into this racetrack with 4 wins already. And the thing I find unique about those 4 wins is that they come in kind of unique formats. You basically dominated Daytona rather. You got the fuel mileage win last weekend. When you're in that position where you're basically got a share of the points lead, how comfortable is it to know that you can kind of gamble at a racetrack like here to go for a 5th win? And secondly, what do you like about racing here at Loudon that kind of suits your racing style?
Well, it's nice to have 4 wins. I wish they meant more. Yeah. When it comes chase time, I got 4 stickers on my car, and that's about it. But beyond that, it's a confidence booster for the group, and we come here to New Hampshire, with a lot of optimism because it's a good track for us in a lot of ways. And the reasons behind that, I would say, is we just have seemed to have great communication between my crew chief of what we need to run well here, and I think that's critical anywhere you go. But it seems like certain tracks just click for certain teams. And it's not always easy to define why. Sometimes you think you got an idea and something comes in and disproves that. But this has been one of those tracks that's clicked for my team and for myself. And we're proud of that. We want to keep it going. And there's a lot of things being thrown at us this weekend to maybe throw that off the rails. A different rules package with the car compared to years past. And the tire compounds are drastically different, which throws the car setup kind of for a whack between the two of those. So, this isn't a layup weekend for us. We're going to have to really fight hard to get on top here, and I know we're committed to doing that. No problem. Thank you.
We'll go next to Mike, and then back and finish with Terrell.
Mike Hember, USA Today. Is racing for a win here this week and having your car in shape to do that the same as getting ready for the second race here, which is obviously more important than this
Yeah.
one? Are the differences there or the same thing?
I think the cars will be pretty similar. The guys that are fast this time around will probably be fast next time around when we come back here. So that makes this weekend a pretty important weekend for us. You look at it in terms of car development, and Phoenix is probably on the exact opposite end. You start out in late February, early March at that track, and you come back in November, and it seems like you have 2 completely different cars with development that your team has put into it, and it's not always a good indicator of who's going to be fast. I say that after Harvick's won there a bunch of times, but you look at this track, Loudon specifically, and I don't know if there's another track in the chase that races back-to-back so quickly in such a short time span. And that means generally what works here in the first race carries over to the second race because the car specs and development cycle is relatively close. So I think it's a good indicator for sure, and it's an important race for us to run well, being that it is in the chase when we come back. So I think we put a lot of emphasis on this race, as do all the chase eligible teams right now.
This is really sort of a dovetail. Terrell Covey, Portsmouth Herald. Sort of a dovetail off of that question. Do those 4 stickers on your car give you a chance to play around a little bit here this time around and experiment with some things that you might want to try when you come back?
Yeah, somewhat. I think it's more for the crew chiefs to make bold calls than anything else. As a driver, there's only so much you can really do, short of just wrecking someone. I kind of feel like it's the opposite as a driver. As a driver, it's like, no, I got 4 wins just to make sure I don't piss anyone off for when the chase starts. But the team's like, yeah, now that we got 4 wins, let's put that part in we thought would break, but we're not sure. And let's call that crazy pitch strategy. We don't know. And, so it's like 2 different worlds there. But it's certainly an interesting change once you've won a race.
Well, Brad, we really appreciate you coming and joining us today, and good luck this weekend.
Thank you very much, Matt.
Take care. I can have your attention here in the media center. We are now joined by the second place qualifier for Sunday's New Hampshire 301 here at New Hampshire Motor Speedway, and that's Kyle Busch, driver of the number 18 Interstate Batteries Toyota. Kyle, could you walk us through your lap and what you feel you have in the car for Sunday?
Yeah, our car wasn't quite as good as I had hoped it to be as far as the feeling that I had with grip. And it was fast, though. The second round and third round were certainly high up there on the speed charts, but just didn't quite have the comfort that I was looking for out of our car to be able to push it a little bit more and get some more time out of it. And actually had to give up a little bit of time because of the lack of grip that I felt exit of 4 and ended up P2 today. So Interstate Batteries Camry is good. Adam and the guys have done a great job, and just look forward to hopefully being able to work on some balance and work on some feel that I like for tomorrow and get ready for Sunday.
We'll open the floor up to questions. Raise your hand. We'll get a wireless mic to you. We'll start over here at Kenny Bruce.
Kenny Bruce with NASCAR.com. Kyle, is New Hampshire like any other track where when you say you don't have the feel, you can think, okay, we do this here and it's similar to this track and it'll help that, or is this just its own animal?
No, this place is kind of its own animal. It's a lot of a short track. It kind of reminds you a little bit of Martinsville, but it doesn't even drive near as the same as Martinsville. So, this place is definitely pretty tricky as far as being able to figure out what the right balance of speed is and what the right balance of grip is. You can be really fast here and be really loose, and you can try to, calm that down and get some comfort built in the car for you so you can just steer it to the left and not worrying about having to counter steer to the right, and then you're slow. So a lot of different things go into what you want to feel as a driver here around this place.
Additional questions for Kyle Busch? Go to Terrell.
Terrell Covey, Portsmouth Herald. Kyle, I'm just wondering what the difference in the cars are between qualifying trim and race trim, and what some of the changes that you guys try to make to be better on race day.
The biggest things that you look for is just trying to make the car as fast as you can make it on the short run for qualifying. So you'll put some nose weight to it, you'll put some front cambers to it and things like that, and you'll free it up so you can make sure that you can hustle it as hard as you can possibly hustle it and not have the thing build tight on you. So if you do those things for the race, you'll just be way too loose, and you won't be able to hang on for the long run. So you definitely have to take some of those adjustments out of it to make sure that the car is well balanced and will last here probably 80 laps or so.
Any additional questions for Kyle? Kyle, good luck this weekend.
Thanks.
All right, we welcome to the Media Center the winner of the Coors Lite poll here in New Hampshire, Mr. Jimmie Johnson, driver of the number 48 Lowe Chevrolet. First poll of the year, Jimmie. 35th of your career, and I believe it's the first one here in New Hampshire. So tell us how it felt out there. You seem pretty excited.
Yeah, really excited. We've had, as everybody knows, a tough month or two. So to be back in the media center is a nice feeling. I even forgot that I had to come here. So it's amazing how fast things change. But just proud of the team. We unloaded well and put up some great laps. And then our final set of tires we put on at the end of practice, I went out and I thought something was wrong with the car. It just was not like it had been. And then we were left with some tough decisions on what to do. kind of put the car back to where it was when we unloaded, when we knew we had stickers on the car and how the car responded, and had a great qualifying session. So we had to adjust on it a little bit, and then I was certainly building my confidence in the car and what it was capable of. And by the time we made it to the third session, we had a very low lap count on our tires, which I also feel worked in our favor to put up a fast lap there in that third session.
Okay, real quick, 3-time winner here. How important is it to be up front at this race on this track?
Man, this place, I'd go as far to say it's the most important track for qualifying and track position. Short race, very difficult to pass. If fuel strategy comes into play, it's a different dynamic in a different race, but the last few races have been races, and in that situation, you need track position now. Now the key is to keep it, but at least we're starting with it.
All right, we'll take questions. We'll start with Reed, then we'll go over here to Rob, and then over to Bob.
Reed Spencer with NASCAR Wire Service. After the rough stretch you've had, how welcome is this? Is this really a boost for you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, anytime you're fast, it's a huge boost, and especially to come through the trying practice session that we had, and the big question mark in our mind, like, what happened? I mean, the car was a half a second faster on scuffed tires than it was when we put the stickers on to go at the end, and I couldn't even stay on the racing line. So something really weird went on. So to rebound from that builds a lot of confidence for us. We worked hard on this race car that we brought here. It's a new car, so to validate that is big for the shop, big for Chad, big for engineers. So today's a big day for us.
All right, we'll go to Rob, and then Bob, and then over to Kenny.
Rob Tiongson of the Podium Finish. Jimmie, it's to touch upon it earlier, this is kind of a morale boost for the Hendrick team, given the kind of newsworthy week you guys have been having. So given kind of the struggles you guys have been going through lately, how big is it for the 48 team to know that you've got the speed, all of a sudden you've kind of broken that Penske-Gibbs stranglehold at New Hampshire? And secondly, with this weekend being very hot here, how are you going to prepare for that come Sunday?
Yeah, it feels really good to be the fastest car here, and I have to say that through the news that we all learned yesterday with Dale not being able to be in the car, it was just mind blowing to hear those things, and so happy for him that he's not afraid to stand up and say I need to sit out. So very, very proud of him. But he did come here and test for us, and he gave us the foundation for the way our cars unloaded today. So big thanks to the 88 team, Dale and Greg and those guys for having a great test session and give us our opportunity at the pole today. And then with the heat, it's really hydration related. So right here, you just got to keep loading up. And you can't do it the day of. You have to start from the time probably 3 days out and really make sure that you have the right electrolyte balance going in and enough volume of fluid to make it through the hot summer days.
Okay, we'll go to Bob, and then Kenny, and then over to Claire B.
Bob Pockris, ESPN. What do you all lose when Dale Jr. is not at the track? And is it any more pivotal that he's not here this weekend, considering he did do the test here?
Yeah, the debrief, the information coming from the car. I mean, we all know driving styles and crew chief styles per car. So when there's somebody different in the car or a different crew chief, it certainly puts those remarks or the information you receive kind of into question and you just wonder. And then the fact that Dale tested here, that just makes it even a larger issue. He felt 2 days worth of testing and so many different combinations of setups in the car, and it's one thing to read it in the database, but it's actually talk to a driver that's experienced the shock or the spring or the bump stop and how it reacted. Those verbal and face-to-face conversations are so much more impactful than reading it in notes. So we're going to miss that part for sure.
All right, we'll go Kenny and Claire B, and then over here to Lee.
Kenny Bruce with NASCAR.com. Jimmie, you talked about not being sure why your car wasn't running as well as you guys kind of expected it to there when you made the changes. When you have a situation like that, I mean, do you feel like, okay, as bad as we could possibly be, we're still going to be good enough to advance out of the first round? Or do you guys were you just trying to sneak up on it and go round by round and keep going till you get to the end?
With experience, I try to just wash it away and start over. I hopped on my bike. Kenseth and I went for a 32-mile bike ride and just cleared our brains, and I came back, clean sheet of paper, tried to walk to the race car as if it was my first time in the car, and didn't have any baggage that I was carrying with me. And I think experience has helped me get to that spot. Younger years certainly worried about things and oversensitive and overthinking a lot of what goes on. So I think experience helps in these situations. And fortunately, the car was so different, that one run, that something was just flat out wrong. I mean, it wasn't even the race car that I drove 10 laps in prior to. I mean, something was off. Yeah.
Okay, we'll go to Claire B, and then to Lee, and then over to Lewis.
Claire B. Lang, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. When you first heard about Dale Earnhardt Jr., I mean, you've done off-road racing. You've seen your share of flips, and I don't know if you've hit your head a number of times, I would guess so. What was your initial sick reaction to it, but also knowing the side of racing where you've been a part probably of things like this?
Yeah, I mean, I more than anything, just, again, am proud of him to recognize that he doesn't feel right and to say something about it. I talked to him last week when he thought he had a sinus infection, and I suggested a few things that I take that I know are legal with the drug screening policy, and I have seasonal allergies that I have to fight with, and he thought something like that was going on with him. But clearly there's more to it, and I've had my fair share of hard hits. I've had a few concussions, and the one thing about concussions is everybody responds differently to them. Some people are more sensitive. The repeat concussions and the sensitivity to it changes as well, and we're all different. So it's very difficult for me to comment because I know what I've been through and I don't know what he's been through. But again, I think, and it started right away when the news came out, how everybody was happy that he said something about it, and he's going to go through great lengths to make sure he understands what's going on and try to, if at all possible, address it and try to improve that situation so he's not so sensitive to it in the future.
All right, over here to Lee, and then to Lewis.
First of all, just to clarify, when you said something is broken, it was just a bad set of tires.
We did not find anything broken or wrong. To me, it felt like...
But that's what you said on the radio, right?
Yep.
I think something's broken.
Something's broken, something's wrong. I thought that the right front spring was out of the bucket, is the way it felt to me. It felt like the nose of the car was really high, and it just wouldn't go down and travel and turn, just was up. So I thought a spring came out of its perch or out of the bucket, and when we got back in, everything checked out, and all we did was change the tires and went out and qualified on pole.
Okay, and currently with 8 races to go for the chase, where do you think Hendrick Motorsports stands against Joe Gibbs Racing and Team Penske right now?
Yeah, depending on the track, I think it alternates between a Penske car or a Gibbs car, and those guys have been the class of the field, especially as the summer is pressed on. We had a test in Indy where we tried and learned a lot. We have some more tests coming up for the company, and I feel like we're trying to close the gap right now to what they have going on, and thankfully we still have 2 months left to close the gap.
Okay, Lewis, and then we'll go to Terrell.
Louis Frank of Reuters. After a day like you have at Kentucky, how do you handle it? And you kind of touched upon it with Kenny. But what happens during the team meeting Monday or Tuesday?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, you hate tearing up cars. In the first car, I thought we had a couple tenths on the field, so that I felt really bad about. And then we still had a great backup car in opening start. I went from 9th to 4th, and I was hanging around in there doing just fine, and just aggressive trying to get back to the front on new tires and lost it. So, it happens, but when a driver loses 2 cars in a weekend and it's on him, I mean, it was a long, slow week for me. I mean, I felt really bad for the guys. So, you just you try to shrug it off and move on, and thankfully, this weekend got here soon enough. Or I guess we were in Indy, so that kind of helped things advance. We got back on the racetrack. Yep.
Okay, we're going to go to Terrell Reed, and then we'll wrap it up with Dan Gelston.
Hi, Terrell Covey, Portsmouth Herald. Jimmie, where you guys came here and tested, and you've been at Indian testing, if you guys can get one here, get a win here, how big will that be, especially considering this is also a chase track, on starting to close that gap that you mentioned with Gibbs and Penske?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, whenever we're at chase tracks, we're always very aware of that and hope to have a good first trip and build on that to come back for an even better second trip. Our short track program, we put a lot of effort into it to improve our cars and be more competitive. And I think Richmond showed a lot of promise for the 48 team. Very difficult track for us, and we had a very competitive day. And then we improved on that, we felt, and brought a similar car, but with some updates to it here. And except for that one run at the end of practice, felt like we did a nice job of improving the car. So, we're validating some new stuff for our short track program, and today's a great step in the right direction for that.
Reed Spencer with NASCAR Wire Service. What was your reaction when you heard that Jeff Gordon was going to be in the car at Indy if Junior can't drive there?
Somebody better call him. I think he's in the south of France drinking rosé. We need to sober him up and get him back. The posts that I've seen from he and his wife, they're having a big time over there. So we need to send some Gatorade over to him and get him hydrated and get him back for Indy.
And do you think 8 months out of the car, conceivable that he could win?
I've learned to never underestimate that man, without a doubt. And it's Indy, a place that he loves dearly, the winningest driver there. I'm sure it'll take a few laps to knock the rust off and get going, but there's enough on-track time, and the race is long enough that he'll have a shot if he's in the car.
And just to clarify, did you say a 32-mile bike ride?
Yes, sir.
How long did that take?
Hour 50, just under 2 hours. Wow. There's lots of hills around here, so it would have been better.
Dan?
Dan Gelson, the Associated Press. Jimmie, have you considered donating your brain like Dale said he would do in April? And have you suffered the kind of hits in your career that at all would make you concerned for your overall health way past your retirement date?
I've never considered it. I guess I'm afraid what they'll find or not find. But in all seriousness, I've never considered it. I am an organ donor, so it wouldn't bother me to do that, but it's something I've not taken steps in and have discussed any at all. What was the second part?
If you suffered the kind of hits in your career that would make you at all concerned about what could be in store later on down the line.
Yeah, I've had concussions, especially racing off-road and motocross. I mean, I had plenty as a kid, a couple in a stock car. There was one at Indy. I had one at Watkins Glen, a mild one there. But I've not been sensitive to them. And there's guys, that crash and we're all used to hitting the wall. There's some people that are just more sensitive to it, and I've been very fortunate that I haven't been that sensitive to concussions through my career. Big hits have happened, and I've been grilled by the medical staff, and I'm like, no, I'm fine. So I guess I'm lucky on that side of it.
Jimmie, congratulations. The 50th pole for the Chevrolet SS. Congratulations to Chevy, and thanks for joining us here in this media center. Welcome back.